Changes you were talking about in the background of our culture, such as divorce, are not the only changes that are going on. I think there are two others that might have a big impact, and I would like to hear what you think about them. One is probably not very politically correct to bring up, but both have to do with the internet. And one is dating on the internet. And I think that's changed people's ideas of choice. The work of Barry Schwartz has shown that people just have this mistaken sense of an infinite number of choices. You just click next if one little item comes up that doesn't satisfy you. And the other thing, talking about satisfaction, is the availability of internet porn. And and so you have all these guys who are just, spending their Saturday nights getting a kind of hollow satisfaction. It's certainly not going to be the full blast, bells and whistles of a relationship with a real human being, but it does satisfy a deep need. And I wonder what effect that's having on, what kind of a deterrent effect that might be having on growing up, committing, when you've got all these other outlets.
Well, I wrote my book in 2003, before the internet dating. But that is the next big revolutionary phenomenon. And I do hear, people break up on Facebook, and you look on Facebook to see this is mild stuff, but I'm in a relationship, I'm not. Everything's mediated by technology. And I welcome any criticism of this, but my gut reaction is that in some ways the use of internet technology, including pornography, of course, biases the dating and mating dance toward men rather than women. I mean, this doesn't take a lot of effort, right, for men to look at pornography. I mean, it's much less arduous than screwing up your courage to ask a woman out and then planning to go take her out. So, yeah, I absolutely.
Yeah, I had been skeptical that internet porn was playing that big a role because I thought, well, I mean, clearly the real thing has to be so much better, and it wasn't going to. Well, no, right, and then as I've read a little bit more about it, and there's a kind of interesting book on this subject by Pamela Paul called Pornified. Yeah, it made me wonder, really, if it isn't having some distorting effects. She certainly describes a lot of stories of men who had expectations, shall we say, when they were getting involved with a woman, about how that woman should look, how she should act, and some of it was, let's say, wouldn't be such a turn on for women. So I think, at the very least, it may be promoting certain fantasies about the script that are not very female friendly. I think that's true. Also, of course, the whole internet dating thing, I mean, it's become essential, really, because when you live in the city, as Barbara was saying, you go to college, you're surrounded by possibilities, but by the time you're at work 12 hours a day, as many of these kids are, and your high school friends or your college friends, but maybe some work friends, but you really have very limited outlets. At least that's what I'm finding at any rate with my youngest daughter. You don't meet. It's not so easy to just meet people. Certainly, you can meet somebody in a bar, but that doesn't tend to work out all that well for a lot of women. So, people do have this internet dating outlet, but I do think that there's something about the way the way that you engage on the internet that promotes mistrust. The fact is,
deception.
And deception, absolutely.
It changes the game in a way.
Yeah, yeah. So some of you may be familiar with a website called OkCupid. It's a dating website, and they keep amazing data. And you should really check it out, their blog, because they, the guys who are running this data machine there are coming up with some really interesting insights. They say, well, everybody lies. Men add an inch to their height, and women take 10 pounds off their weight, and everybody photoshops the photos. And so there you have, look, everybody tries to put their best face forward when they're meeting somebody, whether it's over the internet or in person. But it's, I do think that there's some problem with the way this encourages the deception and the knowledge that everybody does it.
And it occurs to me too that there's just this matter of time, that classically love and courtship were leisure activities. You had to take your time. This was part of the pleasure of it, and get to know. And technology speeds everything up.
Speed dating now.
Yeah, and so we do have speed dating as the big example. But the shift from sort of leisure to efficiency affects relationships as well.
And I just have to add, I was on the bus the other day coming back from Philadelphia, and the man in front of me, like through the crack in the seat, I could see that he was on Match.com, and it was so interesting to watch because he would just, he'd pull up a profile, look at it, exit out, maybe minimize if he was going to like still have it in his mind, and then he'd go to the next profile, and he just did this, and then he would go back to watching The Simpsons, and then he would go back to watching, not even exaggerating. One of the women that I talked to this summer who was doing online dating, she talked about how she worried that it made people more picky. So I think there is something with the paradox of choice.
There is a fair amount of evidence that it changes your perception of the pool of people there, so that you can just keep turning down perfectly good people.
Right.
Yeah, just to add one more small point. I mean, one theme you hear a lot from people is that they keep lists of the qualities that they want. They have their 15 qualities, and so they go on they have a checklist, right? And so they'll say, well, I found somebody who has 8 of them, but maybe I can still hold out for 11 or whatever.